Hey everybody, it's Mark, Dr. Deadwax here, and it's time for day 15 of the Inbox Challenge, week 3. Today's numbers were picked by Mr. Fartboy, Tony. Mr. Fartboy 79, Tony. So, thanks Tony for picking the numbers and playing along. Tony picked 4 numbers. I'm going to do 5 records, and you'll see why in a minute. First up is Eddie Gale, Forecast, and this is Kudu 11. Kudu is a label that was was another project of Creed Taylor who did CTI. This was one of the kind of maybe an offshoot label of CTI. He had several. He had a gospel label. This was supposed to be like more inner city, rootsy. Not quite sure what the hell it was supposed to be. Eric Gale is a guitar player. He's a very famous guitar player. He's I think played on several hundred sessions over the years. And this came in the Kudu inner sleeve. And Kevin knows I'm going to keep this because it's in my sleeve. So he just cheats. He knows what I'm going to keep by looking at the sleeve and not at the record. Anyway, here's the label, Kudu. So this is Kudu 11, Eric Gale Forecast. And this has Van Gelder in the Deadwax. Van Gelder was a mastering engineer, and he did all the mastering for Creed Taylor at CTI, and he did the Kudu stuff. And there you can see it at like 1 o'clock. This is a great record. I am not the biggest fan of Eric Gale's guitar playing. He's great, but it doesn't necessarily work for me. And I guess it's mostly because of the stuff I've been exposed to. I've talked about the, like for example, the Electro Musician label. I've heard both of Gale's records on Electro Musician, and I just absolutely hate them. They're schmaltzy, smooth, reggae, jazz, reggae, smooth jazz, like they're all over, and they just do nothing for me. And he's got a famous one. I think it's called Multiplication or something on I think it's on Columbia. I've heard that, and it was okay, but it really didn't hit me. And when I started listening to this, side song is Killing Me Softly with his song. And I gotta say, I was just walking away then. And then the rest of the record happened, and it's amazing. It's actually, once you get away from Killing Me Softly, it's great. I can't get over how good it is. And it's got some great kind of like jazz fusion-y feels to it. He plays guitar. Bob James plays organ and keyboards and piano, and he arranged the horns because Creed Taylor has to have horns and everything. Bass is Gordon Edwards. Drums is Rick Marotta on one song, the Killing Me Softly song, but the rest of the album is Idris Muhammad on drums. Not that Rick Marotta is a hack, or he's great. His brother's great, but Idris Muhammad's fantastic. And one of the trumpet players is Randy Brecker. Just a huge Pepper Adams on baritone sax, Joe Farrell on tenor sax, Hubert Laws on flute. Everybody's on here. This has got a huge cast of characters, but it's actually wonderful. Better song than Killing Me Softly is the first thing, and this would be like a master, like total gem if it was that. This is a really good album, and it's got a good groove on it for a good chunk of it. So that's the first one. The next one is Elvis, Costello and the Attractions, Imperial Bedroom. Now I have a like-hate relationship with Elvis Costello. I don't really like them, and I hate most everything I hear. And yet I have a huge Elvis Costello collection because I totally get that the guy's one of the great songwriters of our generation. I totally agree with that. I think I just don't know. I don't know. I'm never always in love with his performances. This is on the Columbia label. I bought this because the stampers were 1A. That's the only reason why I bought this. You can see the 1A there at about 4 o'clock. I wouldn't have bought this otherwise. I would have just left it. It was $3. The Eric Gale was like $6. I wouldn't have bought this except for the stampers for 1A. I thought, well, you know, it's got 1A stampers. It's first pressing. It's not a first pressing. It's the reissue, and it's the first pressing, first plates, 1A on both sides of the reissue. And it sounds fantastic. This is an amazing sounding record. And before this, I would say possibly my favorite Elvis Costello record was Spike. And yet I'm totally done with Spike. I've listened to that too many times, and it's got some great songs on it, but it's so all over the place that I just don't want to hear it anymore. I actually left a 1A stamper of that in the past couple months for $5. So, but I grabbed this because it was one I'd never seen. So this record came out in 1982. I've never heard this record in my life or anything off of it. I didn't even know what came out. I have Punch the Clock, which came after this, and I have the record that came before this. I was totally into this scene in 1982. I don't know how the hell I missed this record. This record's amazing. This record is fucking incredible. It's now my favorite Elvis Costello record. It's got this really good big pop sound. The record sounds fantastic. The songs have this great feel, and I guess one of the things that this has going for it is it was recorded by Jeff Emmerich. And Jeff Emmerich was the recording engineer on the later Beatles records. So, you know, worked under George Martin, and so that's what this is. Now, simultaneously, Jeff Emmerich was recording in the studio next door, Paul McCartney's Tug of War, and George Martin was producing that. But Jeff was producing this, so, and recording, engineering next door on Tug of War. I guess I should have known this was a reissue because it didn't have the insert with the lyrics. Yet, you know, the catalog number on the spine, I don't know if I can make that visible. Probably not. But it says FC and then the catalog number, FC31 or whatever. But on the label, it says PC. Can you see that? On the label it says PC. So, and that's how you know it's a second pressing. So even though the sleeves must have been left over from the first run, but the vinyl, the catalog, so you always go with the record. Because the covers, you know, they're going to save money by putting anything in a cover. Some great stuff on here. It's got a big, beautiful, lush production. Lots of really interesting pop songs that are totally fresh to me. Totally love this record. Love it. Next is another copy of The Cure's Disintegration. So I talked about this the other day. I'm not going to talk about it again. It's a great record. I love it, and that's why it's the same old Canadian pressing, and that's why we're moving on. That's why I added another record. Because I figured I cleaned it and I listened to it, moved it out of the inbox, but let's move on to, let's do some records we can talk about. Next is The Illusion, If It's So. Now, The Illusion were a kind of psych blues rock band from Long Island. They put out 3 records, all on Steed, and this was their 3rd record. It's funny how all of these kind of psych bands from this period really latched onto the Native American motifs with the clothing and the and stuff like that. It's kind of funny how that has this really weird association with psych. And this is on the Steed label. And this is the first pressing. And what's really weird about this record is if you look at this record, you'll see it's on neither side is it banded. There's no banding. So it just runs together. There's no, you know, spots in between the songs. So that's kind of unusual. So kind of psych rock, you know, everything's psych rock from this time. I mean, I think sometimes we just call everything psych rock. I would say that overall, some of this record is quite psych, and some of this record is just, you know, kind of rockin', kind of heavy blues rock that was very popular at the time. So it's actually a really cool record. The first song on side one, Man, is pretty good. Let's Make Each Other Happy is, maybe it's, you know, it's a gentleman trying to convince a woman that they should maybe make each other happy and how he won't fail her. And then side two has a life cycle theme, a Dr. Stone. Really cool record. You can pick this up for like 25 bucks maybe. I paid $5 for it, so you know the cover's kind of chewed. The record is perfect. The record is possibly never played. It's so neat and clean and scratch free and noise free and crackle free. It just plays like a brand new record with like 3 pops on it. Hell, most of the new vinyl I buy doesn't sound as good as that banged up covered 40-year-old record. So and was from 1971. And finally is Lucifer's Friend. And this is Lucifer's Friend's first record. And Lucifer's Friend were a kind of hard rock and blues band, hard blues rock, hard rock band, lots of organ. Let's say some people compare them to Sabbath. I would say they were closer to Deep Purple. But that kind of a band. This record is from 1971, and it's that kind of, you know, the singer subsequently, the singer is John Lawton. So he was British, and he'd gone to Germany with his band on a tour, and then at the end of the band's tour, he decided to stay in Germany, and he joined with these 4 other guys from another band, and they started Lucifer's Friend. And they put out like 4 or 5 records, and then John Lawton went on to join Uriah Heep and sang for Uriah Heep. And people say that this sounds a little like Uriah Heep too. This is on Billingsgate. Now this is a U.S. pressing, and it says it's in quadraphonic. So, but you can play quadraphonic records on a stereo. Like if you see quadraphonic records and they interest you, you can still buy them and play them on your stereo. Quadraphonic worked with a specially shaped needle stylus that had 4 contact surfaces instead of 2, and they hit different spots in the group. But you can still play with it, you know, with a 2 contact surface stylus. You can still play these records in stereo. So you know, if you see like I said, if you see a quad record and it interests you, don't be afraid of it. Pick it up. So German, kind of blues rocky. This is on Billingsgate. That's the label. So all of the record information is on this side, and then it's got this kind of cool vanity label on the other side. I don't know what pressing this is. The first pressing of this on Billingsgate in the United States, according to Discogs, has a gatefold cover. This does not. And when you look at them on eBay, this red label part is black, and where the black writing is white. So I think this is a later reissue from Billingsgate. And what kind of gets me thinking that is that on the back cover here it says other albums to be released in America, Where the Groupies Killed the Blues, recorded in 1972, and I'm Just a Rock and Roll Singer, recorded in 1973. So it makes me think that this was released, you know, late 73, early 74 maybe. So perhaps, now typically the Lucifer's Friends records were released in North America a year after they were released in Europe back then. So that would make the first press of this like 72, which is probably, and it's got a, it also has a different spot here. This is kind of a rectangular in black, a rectangular printed on thing saying that it's a quad. And the first is a quad too. Nothing interesting in the Dead Wax. So they were all released like a year later, but this one has 2 albums, so like the next 2 albums, so that's why I'm thinking it's a repress. And it also came with the Billingsgate inner sleeve, which is, you know, lined. And some cool artists on Billingsgate: Lucifer's Friends, Scorpions, Jane, Elias, Guru Guru, New, Frumpy, Epitaph. So they were releasing some pretty hot titles on Billingsgate in North America from, you know, labels like Brain and I think Bellophone and some others. So anyway, those are today's records. So this is a great record. I really liked it. It's you know, it's hard rockin', but it's quite excellent. Today's records are all really good. So Tony, thanks for picking those out, and everybody have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow. Keep the record spinning.